coming and attending our 2024 City Annual General Meeting. Is this better? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so welcome to the Blaine Senior Center. And I want to start off by thanking the Blaine Senior Center for hosting our meeting. They hosted it last year as well. And it's a fabulous facility with really wonderful people who help us with all the setup and make sure, do the hard part, which is make sure that the video and the audio is all working with the screen. Probably the biggest challenge of any meeting these days, making sure Zoom and everything is all connected. So I want to thank the Blaine Senior Center. And I also want to thank our staff, the SRA staff, who were here early and in the days in advance of this meeting, making sure that everything was going to go smoothly when everybody arrived here this morning. So we have Aaron, our general manager, who is probably close to his 1 year anniversary. So I think Aaron's first day might have been the annual general meeting last year, which is how many people remember. And we have Lori Thorne at the back, who's able to stand after being in a terrible accident this year, so we're happy to see that she's up on her feet again. And we have Alyssa. Alyssa's at the back here. Alyssa voted in this year and is in the office doing administrative work and attends the board meetings and keeps us all organized. And I don't know if we have anybody here, and we have Carol. Is Carol here? Oh, there's Carol. Carol is our Architectural Standards Committee administrator, which if anybody's painted their house or changed their roof or built a house, Carol is the person that you will have worked with the most. And I don't think we have anyone here from me, right? Okay, so our steadfast maintenance team is not here today, but I think they get introduced later on in the slides. So I'm going to officially call the meeting to order with that at 10:07. I'll call it. My name is April Hashimoto. I've been on the board since January 1st, 2024, 2023. Oh, this is my second year. This is 2023. And 2024 was my second year on the board. I will introduce the rest of the board members who are up here. Everybody is here. We have Debbie Packman. Debbie is our vice president. This is Debbie. We have Greg Booth. Greg Booth is our treasurer. We have Rod, who is our maintenance committee lead. We have Tom McDaniel, who is our secretary. We have Delia, who is our safety and security lead. We have Carrie Clevenger, who is our liaison with the Architectural Standards Committee. Yay for Carrie. We have Mohammed, who is our environmental liaison. And we have Joel at the end, who is on our communications committee. So that's our board that was elected in at this time last year. We have, I guess the next thing is a certificate of quorum. I believe we have quorum. I'll get out of the way here. So we a quorum for under our CCNR is 40%. We're at, it looks like just close to 50%. So we have quorum, so we're able to carry on the business of the meeting. Proof of notice, this is all sort of the governance requirement. We sent out email and where we didn't have an email for a member, we sent out physical snail mail and sent out notifications as required under the CCNRs and Washington state law. Next item is President's report. Oh, here's our vision and mission statement. And then we can move on to the President's report. So, I will just sort of give highlights of the year because we have usually individual board members who are going to talk about specific areas. The big event that happened this year is that we had a massive increase in our insurance premium that we found out in February when we went to renew our insurance. It's not possible to really find out in advance what your insurance premium is going to be. You can do your best to estimate it, but in the end, what you need is to actually go to the insurance companies and get a quote, and then the quote is only good for a certain period of time. So we did our best. We spoke to our insurance people. We got an estimate of what the insurance increase would be when we went to actually do the renewal in February. It was substantially higher than what we were expecting. So we had about $71,000 of increase that was not budgeted at the time. And we sat down and took a hard look at our budget and decided that if we worked hard at it, that we could absorb that increase without asking the membership to put in an additional assessment and without putting off or deferring any of the work that we had planned in the budget. So we have been able to do that. We had to have a special meeting under our CCNRs to inform the community and request approval for the increase in the budget. We didn't ask for any funding of that. And we're in sort of late October now, and we're in a position where we can say that we look very strongly like we're going to finish the year within our original budget. A lot of the credit for achieving that goes to our maintenance group and to Aaron, who was able to identify some funds that we were entitled to receive back that had kind of slipped between the cracks from our title company. So the time we did the special meeting asking people to give us the opportunity to find those savings, and that it looks like we're on track to do that. The two big projects that were scheduled for this year were to take a look at the stairs at Boundary Ridge, which were closed due to safety issues that were identified in 2022 or 2023, sorry, in 2023, as well as repair to the Goldfinch retaining wall, which was in the reserve budget to be spent in 2024. We'll go to the next slide. The challenges ahead are, obviously the goal of the board is to efficiently and responsibly manage the funds that everybody pays into the SRA for their fees. We have, in the last couple of years, focused on doing a lot of the work in-house. We're very fortunate to have Leroy as our maintenance director. He's worked for several cities, including the city of Blaine here, and has a lot of experience. So we have, and a lot of skills. So we're very fortunate to have a person here where we don't have to pick up the phone and call an outside service to come in, drive, in some cases, drive to Blaine, which is, I think everybody who lives up here knows there's a bit of a premium for bringing experience, skills, or trades up from Bellingham. And we have a guy who lives right here, who's on our payroll. When we have things that are damaged, I think everyone on the board is happily surprised when we find out that Leroy was just able to fix it on his own overnight. So, he's out here at night, he's out here on the weekends, keeps his eye on everything, and certified commercial driver's license. He's the person who drives our street sweeper. He maintains it himself. He purchases the parts on the aftermarket. He's really saving all of us a lot of money. And so we're very lucky to have him. The other thing that's sort of a more macro issue for I think a lot of people in Semiahmoo is the fact there continues to be a lot of development here, which development's a good thing. I think we know that people need a place to live and that we want Blaine to have a thriving economy for all of us. But we also want to make sure that there's the infrastructure there to support that. So, you know, water, electricity, power, I think everyone's experienced the issue with power in the winter, in the summer. And, you know, I think for all of us, keeping the lights on is something that we all can agree is important, that there be planning at the city level for that. So I think that is the end of my highlights in the president's report. And I'm handing over to Aaron, who's going to do an administration and maintenance highlights.
Thanks, April. Good morning. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Aaron Jensen. I'm the GM for Semiahmoo. And like April said, this is my 1-year anniversary, so it has definitely been a whirlwind, and I've learned a lot in my year. And I appreciate all the stuff that I've learned from this board. They definitely trailed me along and got me where I am. So I appreciate that, so that I can do my best for you as the homeowner. So with that being said, hey Joel, you want to grab the little thingy up in front of my sign? There you go. And the down button would be, I want to use it all the time. April did this a little while ago. She introduced our administrative staff and the team that I have, between Lori, Alyssa, Carol, and myself. We pretty much run the administrative office. You're going to get one of us in the end when you call into the office one way or another. So we appreciate that. And this is a great team. Alyssa's been with us for a short time, but as of next week becomes a permanent SRE employee as opposed to a temporary one. So welcome to the team. So, with that said, just a couple of items that I'm going to go through. As we stated, my first year as GM, and we hired Alyssa as our new administrative assistant. Along with the board, I have been helping try and engage with the city of Blaine in regards to certain items that specifically the new developments, Avista, Sea Smoke, things like that. So I've been actively involved with some of the communication with the city, along with some of the projects that we're working on, the Goldfinch Way project, and discussion about the Boundary Ridge Stairs, a number of different things like that. So I've been actively involved with the city and gotten to know our planning and development person at the city very well. I've also been working and learning a lot about the ASC and our policies, our procedures, and how best to manage it and how best for us to make it easy for you, the community, to do what you need to do, and be able to follow the standards that we've set at that same time. I've also helped organize, as April mentioned, the general meeting that we had for the insurance, as well as what was requested by you, the homeowner town hall meetings this past year. This would be the 4th one for the year. We've had 3 other ones, a budget and 2 other standard town halls. They were nicely attended, and we got a lot of information, and we will continue those next year. So we would love to see your participation as part of that. Our Our maintenance team, as April said, is steadfast. Leroy is, I use the word amazing. That's not the only word I can use. When I hear he's fixed something, it's like, what did you do? And I don't want to know. Because he did it. You know, I think some people saw that we had somebody run into the podium at one of the St. Andrews gates. Within 24 hours, that podium was back up, it was working again, and it was like nothing happened. And normally we would be 2-3 days before someone would come look at it, and it would be X amount of dollars to fix it, and so on and so forth. So Leroy's amazing. Mike is a hard worker. You put him to work and off he goes. We're in the process of looking for a third, and we hope to have that person on board here pretty quickly. Some of the maintenance things that we talked about this year, and that we've gone through. Completed replacement of 6 entry signs. So your signs that say Prestwick, your signs that say St. Andrews Green, all of, we replaced 6 of those entry signs with more durable materials. Most of them are now metal, so they will not rot. And as well as the wood staples on either side have been redone as well. Leroy helped me with finding a couple of people that would allow us to do bids for the stairs and what it would cost, what it would take, what's the easy way out, what's the hard way out, and getting all that stuff done. So it was a long haul, but it helped us get to the point where we looked at the special assessment that we did for this year's annual meeting. Street sweeper. We thought at one point, I think last year, when they were doing the budget, that the street sweeper might be on its last leg. Well, Leroy doesn't have that attitude in it for a last leg. And he continues to find things that we never find before to be able to keep that street sweeper running. He manages it himself, he cleans it himself, and keeps it running on a daily basis. So, you know, your road, I drove the road this morning before I came in, and I could just, from the storm last night, and I'm boggled on what they look like and what he's gonna be up against on Monday. And he usually does it once or twice a month, and lately he's been doing it every week because of everything that's been dropping. So, you see him wave, just remember to make sure your cars are off the road on days that you know for sure he's coming through. It makes it a whole lot easier for him. We're in the process of bringing in-house everything to do with snow plowing. God forbid we don't get any snow this year, but we're gonna be prepared. Last year we outsourced a company. It took them a while to get up here from Bellingham. And we know we can do it in-house. We're gonna retrofit one of the vehicles and or purchase another vehicle. So we have 2 snow plows running the community when and if the time comes. So we'll be ready for that. And Leroy learned a lot about flowers. So did Mike, so did I, with the help of our landscape subcommittee and Beth and Ted Metz and everybody. We got all the flowers installed for the summer and are in the process of finishing up the winter install. So big hand to them as well for all their help and all their work. So thank you. Last but not least, new members this year. We've had 55 sales since this time last year. And it seems to be running the norm for the last couple of years. 2021, 22 was the largest. But it looks like we've had somebody new move into almost every single community this year. So with that, I'm going to pass this on to Greg.
Going all the way through everything else. Morning, my name is Greg Booth, and I've been treasurer since 1st of August of 23. And the discussion topics we'll be going through. Everybody needs some coffee because this is really exciting. Our accounting structure, we repeat this every year for those that are unaware of how we're set up. But we have two elements. We have the operating fund and the restricted reserve fund. They're pretty much self-explanatory. Operating fund covers the day-to-day of maintenance and running of the SRA. And the restricted reserve fund is a fund that was set up by Washington Law for one. They strongly suggest that the homeowner associations have them. We've had them for years. And the reserve fund is to cover those repairs, maintenance, replacements that run out 30 years. So it's like a sinking fund for long-term repairs and replacements. As of the end of the third quarter of this year, September 30th, as Aaron said, we're in great shape. Our cash right now sits at 1.4 million. Cash in the operating fund is $546,000, and our restricted reserve fund has $866,000. According to our recent reserve study, we were at about 94% fully funded, something in that neighborhood. So the reserve is in good condition. Our fixed assets, which cover the equipment, building, and vehicles, the net book value is 1 million. And our debt, we took out a $750,000 mortgage on the SRA building in 2020. The interest rate is fixed at 5%. I believe that adjusts in 2030, so we still have some time left on that. And our current loan balance is $582,000. Just aside to this, the restricted reserve funds that you see up there, the vast majority have been invested, fortunately, at about 5% average interest rate. So we have been either interest neutral or interest positive here, roughly compared to the mortgage. The budget to date is we had revenues of $1,446,000. We had budgeted $1,438,000. That was principally due to more fines than anticipated and transfer fees than budgeted. The administrative expenses were higher than the budget, again, primarily because of the higher insurance premium that April alluded to earlier, and lower professional fees. We didn't have to spend too much more money on attorneys this year than we did last year, and other outside professionals. Our maintenance expense was lower than budget, again, because of the savings that both Aaron and April have been talking about. And unfortunately, lower salaries in the maintenance department because a lot of people got sick during the year, so we just didn't build hours, if you will. So we ended up spending less on personnel simply because of that. The 2025 budget. Our expenses are forecasted to be $1,175,000, which is 8% higher than it was in 2024, and 12% higher than 2024 forecast. The forecast is our run rate, what we're expecting to be spending during the course of the year. Administration spending was higher. Again, we're expecting higher personnel salaries and the cost of medical insurance. There's the insurance bugaboo again. We have the expected increases in insurance premiums. We, not knowing what it's going to be, kind of put our finger to the air and estimated, I think, hopefully conservatively, about a 20% increase. I hope it doesn't even get close to that. But we wanted to be sure that we were covered because insurance is pretty much a game ender if the association is unable to retain insurance. And these are partially offset by lower engineering work in 2025. Repairs and maintenance are going to be higher again. Salaries, cost of medical insurance. We have additional tree removal work and pond maintenance scheduled for next year. And this is partially offset by the savings of doing a lot of this snow removal and street sweeping as well in this category. The restricted reserve fund budget for next year, we have expenditures estimated at 261,000, which is significantly lower than last year. And that is principally because this year we allocated 220,000 to funding for replacing the retaining wall on Goldfinch Way. The costs are broken down here. As you'll see, roadways take the chunk of that. Those tend to be very expensive and costly on an ongoing basis. And stormwater and the common areas.
Excuse me, Brian, do we ask questions now in relation to this, or we ask questions later in relation to this?
Hey, if you could hold off until the end of the all the presentations,
Thank
would
you.
be appreciated. Thank you. The owner assessment for 2025, the operating assessment, again, these go into the two separate funds, which we had mentioned at the beginning. It's $330 per assessable unit. That's a 7% increase for the operating fund for next year, and it follows a decrease of 6% this year. The restricted reserve assessment is down by 7% over this year, and it follows a 23% increase from this year. So it's kind of a flip. So our total assessment is $419 per assessable unit, which is a net 3% increase over this year. We run an audit of the prior year every year. This year we ran the audit for 2023, and it was clean with no issues. The statements present our condition fairly. They're free from material misstatement. And this, as in prior years, is a bare bones audit. And, the reason for that is that we have 3 CPAs on the finance committee. We implemented in 2023 and refined in 2024 some of the internal controls that we've been exercising during the course of the year. In 2022 or 2023, April went out and did a canvas of regional hiring firms in the area. There were 12. And these are all very recognizable names in the area. The vast majority of them either never did audits, stopped doing audits, and only 2 were willing to do audits, in some cases reluctantly, but at a very high expense, between $25,000 to $31,000 to run a full-blown audit. So the finance committee felt that was quite a chunk of money for something that probably wouldn't bring us a lot of benefit, because we were reasonably confident that the numbers that we had on the books were solid. So again, next year we'll be running an audit for this year with the same auditing firm, whose rate is somewhere in the neighborhood of $5,000 to $6,000, significantly less. And they specialize in homeowners associations. Here's our balance sheet. Everybody can peruse that. For the handouts, of course, nobody can read it from there, but the auditor said it's okay. Right. There we have it. The auditor's report, which, again, if anybody wishes to see this information in more detail, just contact the office. We'll be happy to give it to you. Already covered this slide. And that's the end of the finance section. Wrong one? There we go. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kerry Clevenger. I'm the board liaison of the AAC. And we have 7 members on the AAC. Myself, Guy Kelly, who's going to start soon, Larry, Kyle. I'm going to Brian Horton, Beth Copton, and John Brian. The Architectural Standards Committee of the ASC interprets and enforces the CCNR's standards and rules related to the residential multifamily construction landscaping with the goal to preserve the natural setting and beauty of the property, to establish and preserve a harmonious and aesthetically pleasing design for the property, and protect and promote valued property. Committee members are committed to serve the community. Check gum chewing. People at the door, not barely enough. I don't know where the gum chewing comes from, but I will say that the ASC is like a forward-facing committee, and most well-known committee. Oh, sorry, thank you. It as part of the SRA, and often we're the only people that residents interact with here in San Diego. And it just really is a really tough job. If you can imagine, you know, somebody's maybe spent several $100,000 before they come to you and they say, here's my idea, here's my plan. And to have to tell somebody that's not going to work to their face is not easy. And it really does require that you have some professionalism and sort of a kindness, really. So you can see majority of the projects we do approve, but occasionally we have to say no, and it's not an easy job. You see there that most projects do get approved. Like to thank all of the members of the AAC, as you guys have been saying, it's a really tough job. I just want to bring out in particular, Brian Berg has been really good in our landscape, and Joel in our landscape ASC standards subcommittee, which has been tasked with trying to streamline the process, trying to make it easier for people to get through the process, but also trying to have a better end product in the sense that establishing more design qualities in terms of more objective design qualities, so that we can have something to tell people, you know, this is why it may or may not work. And Brian's been really good about defining that, and also meeting with the city and saying and trying to define the roles, you know, because oftentimes we found that we were doing repetitive things, the same thing. The city was doing the same thing as we were doing, and vice versa. So we're just trying to clarify what the roles are and streamline the process and make it better. Also, you know, it's. I just want to mention too that landscaping is such an important part of building a house, and even a house that maybe not everybody loves can look really good with great landscaping. So Beth Trafton has done an incredible job of kind of making sure that that happens, and holding people to a standard. And as I mentioned, ASC is central to the function, the overall function of the SRA. Everything, you know, that
done in Semiahmoo has to go through the ASC, and so it's very important that we have a functioning ASC. And right now we have the minimum quorum is 3. We have 7 members right now. We're authorized to have 10. With more members, each member's job gets easier. It is a tough assignment, I'll just say, but we would love to have more help. People with building trades, civil engineering, HOA and land use, architecture, real estate experience, and just being a homeowner. So if you're interested in volunteering on this great committee, contact Carol. And that's it. Thank you.
Before we turn this over to Joel for the communications, I'm gonna do a quick round. Debbie, would you like to do But it should have gotten a raffle ticket. And the last 4 numbers be 7099. There we are. Yeah, I guess to all of them. Well, unfortunately, I don't have anything around the way, so I have a fairly quick presentation, but one that's important. The charter and the goal of the communications committee, if you will, is really to disseminate information that's of interest to the community that hopefully will add value to the quality of life around here, so that you know not only what the SRA is doing, but what's happening on things of interest in the community and that sort of thing. I took over the committee at the beginning of this year, and it was probably one of the easiest assignments you could have. Not because what they're doing isn't that relevant, it's terribly relevant. But it was so organized and made up of people who were really thought leaders, if you will, in this community, that basically all I had to do was turn the key, push the on button, and they just went. Came up with great ideas, got things done, got the newsletter out every other month. We have a website that was put together by this committee under the leadership of Joe Fitzsimmons last time around. That is really quite impressive. Oh, Guy's on the committee too, but Guy deceased, so you know. Expired. So.
He's watching this.
The point, hi guys. So the point I want to make is that these people really have contributed a lot, have brought a lot of good ideas and information. And I'm hoping that they all continue to be on the committee going forward after I leave the chair. And the one thing that's missing from this outside of Guy is that we also have what's called the Semiahmoo Greeters. Now, they're not part of the committee formally, but you would never know that. What they do, I don't know if any of you have encountered them or dealt with them, but basically when somebody moves into the community, they come with a bag of goodies and information and greet you and hand this to you. This was something that came up also under Jim's administration. But even more importantly, what they do is that they'll sit down and spend time talking to the new residents, sorry about this, and let them know about
the various attributes, the various opportunities that this community provides, and that type of thing. And I've been told of people having, taking an hour and a half discussion before the greeters, just to learn about our community. So it's a wonderful way to welcome people into the community. There are approximately 20 people involved in the Seminole greeters. But the leaders of that group would be Tippy Vaughn, Pamela Rosso, and I always say it wrong, Darcy Woods, and also my bride, Valerie Morris. And I think they're doing a good job of laying out who represent. So I want to give them kudos for what they've been doing. Okay. Next slide, there we go. Jeremy, I can't do this without words. We do, go back one. Thank you. We do put out a newsletter. The newsletter isn't intended to be a comprehensive document, but really looks at various issues and matters that are of interest to the community. It goes out once every other month. Things such as activities that are happening within the community, what the SRA at an operational level has been up to, the president's message where once every 2 months highlights some of the things that the SRA and the board are dealing with, environmental issues, any number of items. It's not intended to be, a reporting mechanism for the board. We want to be interesting. But that information is available if you're interested in the board minutes, what happens at board meetings, what happens at individual committees. That information is available both on our website, which the committee has an oversight function on, and also on YouTube. We can do all of the board meetings, as well as the town hall, and we're moving in that direction. Other than that, the group has made some process recommendations for trying to evolve the town halls, which we do now, into more effective mechanisms. We've had, I think every town hall that's happened thus far has been better than the last one. And we hope that that's going to be the case going forward. The greeters have also been involved in that, providing support. They're here today from AGM. The whole idea of the door prizes to try to bribe you to come to this meeting was their idea. We're also continuing to evolve the website, and I'm not sure what else to tell you, but that pretty much concludes. It's been a joy working with these people. They're really good people. If you want to be involved, I would suggest that you put in an application to either be involved with the communications committee or to join the greeters if you want to support what the greeters are doing. It's really been fun. So that pretty much concludes what I'm doing. And I think I hand it off to Mohammed next. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. My name is Mohammed, and thank you for listening on this file. Just bear with me for another few minutes, and I'll remember the next one. The committee volunteers that I have in chair is I'm the chair, with me Stan Moss, Jennifer Common, Michelle, Jeff Ferry, Alex, Gabe. The last 8 years AGM, I requested for membership, and then we had 3 that came up. There was Michelle, Alex, and Gabe. And unfortunately, there's 2 that have resigned. So we left with only with 5, including me. Next slide. The EC committee that we have agreed to put up regular environmental updates to the SRA newsletter and also the SRA weekly. some of the topics that we have put out from the members, right, for the residents. Information including into and out of the battery, where have all the songs that's gone. Let us all celebrate that the golden ball is not extinct. What can we do in Semiahmoo to reduce our carbon footprint and enhance our environment? We are in Semiahmoo community, clean the green moss, the state of the trees in our state. There was a study also done on Dragon Papa that was started last year. And there was the incident of the deer being killed by the motorists. So I think that was taken up with the city, and still we want talk of working more at this juncture. I'd like to thank Jennifer Roman, who has taken this on board and trying to go on board to the city to make sure that things are being done as the Semiahmoo residents want to. Instead of increasing the speed. Next one, please. The things that were done this year, one was the cleanup project, the sign cleanup that we did on St. Patrick's Day on March 17th. Our appreciation goes to the participation of numerous community members, their families, and dedicated volunteers. We removed green ramps on the signboards that was present that was all over the area. We focused on Greater Harbour Road, Semiahmoo Drive, Semiahmoo Parkway, as well as various neighborhoods within the Semiahmoo area. Additionally, there was some motivated volunteers who did not come to the SRA office, but they cleaned up their own streets individually. And there was the entirety of Paul Eagle, portions of Food Duck Loop, Godfrey, Peregrine Osprey, Helping Court, and Snow O'Line. Next. These are all the features that we were needed today. Next, please. You can see the difference before and after pictures of the road signs. Then we also organized the leader pickup day held on April 7th. Again, we had the EC members, families, and volunteers there. Even though not much leader was collected, and I believe that all the residents are taking care of the leaders themselves. The road routine is staying clean, but it was a worthwhile project that we did. We also deliberated in the following topics of interest, which means the EC committee discussed interior and extra light pollution, climate change, wildfire abatement program, vista development. I think many things have been taken on the board, and of course, in help with the safety and security committee as well. Next. The ongoing future plans that we have is we continue to work on the educational seminar forum with the newspaper and of course the SRA. And then we've got to organize another pickup day for leader pickup day 2025. And maybe we will try to add in, you see the signs back to the grind. We need another cleanup. And we wish to have more members into the EC community, at least 6. So we require at least 2 to 3 more. So hopefully we get more interest from members or residents to become EC members. Yep, that's all for me. Thank you very much.
Oh, I missed a slide, and there's a huge section here, I wondered if I had pushed the wrong button. The Finance Committee, I am the treasurer and the committee chair, but I'm really the herd of cats, because everybody else on the committee is star power. We have 3 CPAs, April, Tom, and Tom. And April provides us with a lot of historical insight onto prior finances. And Tom Lampy has been, for the last 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, our primary accounting bookkeeping guru. And he was in the process of streamlining the accounting system before Aaron joined, continued with that process, and is continuing with that process. Tweaks continuously are ongoing to make sure that the accounting system is rock solid and it is very much there at this point. He also developed a spreadsheet linking system which enables the finance committee to generate a budget what-if scenario. So that, and it runs directly off of QuickBooks. QuickBooks is our base accounting system. We upgraded that from the desktop version to the online version, which provides us with a huge amount of more capability than what we had in the past, including the ability to do a lot of forecasting. Tom, this check is our reconciliation and error finder. And Rob is our DMN. He's a tech professional and also our assistant treasurer. And essentially, our community, the finance committee is really the bulk of the ability of the finance conditions being in the good condition it is right now. Essentially, we continued in 2024 what we had started out doing in 2023. And I'd add to that in our cash management section, the SRA takes security deposits every time a new construction project is put into the system through the ASC. These deposits, up until this year, had been handled through Whatcom Title as the escrow agent, and People's Bank as depository. Whatcom Title notified us that they were going out of the business. So we hustled, Aaron hustled, and we opened up new accounts at the US Bank, which operate in a similar fashion. There's a master account and then individual interest-bearing accounts, a subsidiary to that, for each housing project that is put in place. And it enables us then to accrue interest, as we're supposed to be doing, individually for each one of the deposits until the project is completed and hopefully a refund is issued, including the accrued interest on that mutual deposit. The finance committee has taken that under our wing this year, primarily because it is a financial matter. It should be reviewed on an ongoing basis to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks. And so we put that on board this year, and Aaron has set up a spreadsheet to be able to monitor that. And the other items were our standard. We reviewed the 2025 budget, prepared a presentation for town hall meetings, and assisted Aaron in the accounting process where it was needed.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. My name is Rob Bibby. I'm relatively new to the board, and I'm also the chair of the maintenance committee. April has highlighted, as well as Aaron highlighted, the work of Leroy and his team, which do a Herculean amount of work to keep the community maintained, refurbish things, replace, and street sweeping and weed removal and everything else. And so a huge shout out to him and his team, because the role of the maintenance committee is really just to advise the board on certain matters which they take under deliberation. But the lion's share of all the work is done by Leroy and his team, so big shout out to them. Members on the maintenance committee are Debbie and Dave Whitmore, who provides a lot of work for input to the reserve study every year. Todd Lipinski, Brian Morton, who's done quite a bit of work gathering bids, working with Aaron and our GM, bids for, for instance, the Gold Pitch Wall Maintenance Project, and Ted Metz is also. I have a pretty easy job. We informed the board, but it's kind of a Maytag repair job. Like I said, Leroy does the lion's share of all the work. Our priorities, from 2023 were to keep the costs down and do more of the work in-house that we used to, have done by outsourcing. Summary of accomplishments, we've installed some signs at the 6 of the gate entrances. Continue to do stormwater maintenances, which includes vacuuming the catch basins. We work with the landscape sub-community for the planting. We complete the landscaping at all the gate entrances. We have given inputs to the board on the stairs, the SRA stairs that Boundary Ridge Beach access, which is one of their deliberations on the board on what we're going to do with that project. And then we also provide inputs to the board on the Goldfinch Way project, getting bids, engineering assessments, stuff like that. Many of these things have already been touched on. The gate repair is scheduled for 2025 and has been budgeted. Sweeping was done in 2023 by outsource. We're taking that in-house now and doing the sweeping as was previously pointed out by Leroy. Snow removal will also be done in-house. We now have 2 vehicles, I think you said, that are going to be providing snow removal. One is coming up. And all landscape maintenance has been moved in-house for 2025, including around the front of the gates and also the irrigation systems, all maintained by Leroy Estate. Some key accomplishments, gantry signs and signpost replacement. We continue to paint as needed the gates when they are in disrepair or need painting, and we recently agreed that the new color, I believe, I think this has been approved, will be green and not white. So as gates need to be repainted, they will be repainted green, very similar to what Crestwood has, and not the current white color that most of them have. We continue with catch basin maintenance and repairs. I pointed out the irrigation system is constantly being maintained and replaced when needed. And the maintenance manual and landscape manuals, that's actually a pretty big project. There's a lot of legacy information in the SRA from past maintenance directors that has been accumulated in a maintenance manual. So that's kind of a living document that we continue to update and present to the board at the end of the year. We are in charge of, on our maintenance committee, talking about things like the Boundary Beach stairs. We received 2 bids and kind of work with Aaron on this to get those bids, review them, talk about the merits of those bids. That's one thing that we do on the maintenance committee, and then turn that around and provide that as input to the board for their deliberations. Engineering completed for the installation of the Goldfinch Way wall, and that work is to start October of 2024. Yeah. Gates have been painted, the fencing and posts have been refurbished. The road, we continue to feel the cracks. We have considerable catch basin and stormwater repairs, and we also do maintenance on the ponds that process the stormwater, including some of the fountains that you see in the ponds. Crack sealing, catch basin, plan for the road and curb repairs have been put together, and we have a list of those things upcoming for 2025. We have a landscape subcommittee that's staffed by Ted and Greg, and Beth is on that as well. They help a lot with maintaining and recommending new plantings around the front gate. So I don't have to work with them directly, but they are a subcommittee under the maintenance committee. But yeah, real shout out for all the people on my committee. They just do a great amount of work. We meet about once quarterly, and discussed a lot of things. We are not here to give direction to Leroy. Leroy knows what he's doing, but if he needs any inputs from our committee, we're here to support him. Priorities. As I mentioned quite a bit, we're moving certain maintenance activities in-house, whereas in the past they've been outsourced. We're going to complete the repairs hopefully this year to Goldfinch Way. Move forward in with the board of directors. There's probably a vote that's going to be discussed on the special assessment. To have that work started and completed this year. I'm sure we'll be talking about that near the end of the meeting. Purchase of a vehicle and some more equipment to support the snow removal duties. Schedule of road maintenance for 2025 and 26. And some of that work comes from the review inputs, which are part of what our maintenance committee does on, especially to help with Dave Whitmore. Install the gate entries at 3 gates and of course bioswale maintenance. We have 2 bioswales, I believe. There's one up at Carnoustie and there's one at the edge of the easement road.
What's a bioswale?
So bioswale is what processes all the water that runs off of streets and people's property, goes to the bioswale, and filters out the toxins, and the untoxinated water goes into the town. If you've ever walked the easement road down along Drayton Harbor, it ends before it goes up a little trail to go up to the top of the hill, back out onto Drayton Harbor Road. Right at that intersection of the trail and where it goes up, you'll see one of the bioswales right there. Who's next?
Hi, everyone. I'm Delia, and I joined the board this year, in January of this year, and assumed the chair role in the Safety and Security Committee, which was my first choice. And the great thing about that committee is that it has a core group of people that have been in that role for many years. And that would be Jane Moore, Pat Slingshot, Paul Berg, and Valerie Norris. And so they were the anchor that allowed a nice smooth transition. And then we were very fortunate to have Pam Moroso, who is in the back of the room here, volunteer to join our committee, as well as Kathleen. Isn't that a beautiful name? Purple Road. She goes by Kathy or Kat. But she also recently volunteered and was approved this past month to join our committee. And the great thing about, so many of these people are already CERT trained, and we'll talk about what CERT is, Community Emergency Response Team trained. So very, very knowledgeable and how to respond to community needs and even if it's a disaster or an emergency. So we're lucky to have this group, and then go forward to the next slide. A lot of what we accomplished this past year had to do with issues that were on our election ballots. So for example, our police chief, Donnell Tanksley, as you know, was elected to become our sheriff. And our replacement police chief, Roger Funk, came from the sheriff's department, 18 years with the sheriff's department. So it kind of so we're very fortunate when we think about it to have our sheriff has relationships with the Blaine Police Department, and our new police chief has relationships with the sheriff's department. So we're very lucky in that respect. And then the other thing that was going on is our fire district was asking us in our primary ballots, asking us to approve a levy lift, which is basically a property tax increase to fund the replacement of the Station 63, which is the Birch Bay Linden Road Station, which is across from the go-kart place. And, so a lot of what we did was try to gather information, to bring to the community so that you could be more informed voters on some of these issues. And so we'll start with the first thing that we were working on at the beginning of the year was the speed calming efforts. That again, I'd like to thank Jennifer Blombaum for initiating the work that was done by the city, starting with a speed study along Great Harbor Road. And then if that was followed by meetings with, she's a member of the environmental committee, as you know. But she also presented to our committee. And together we ended up collaborating and coming together with a letter that went to the city council. And I want to give asking for speed calming efforts on that road in particular. And I'd like to give a shout out to Jim Hermson, who's not on our committee, but he is a resident of Semiahmoo Shores and is the chair of an advisory committee to the city council for public works and for parks and recreation. So he got a copy of the letter and he followed up himself without us even asking him to do so. So long story short, by the time I contacted our new police chief, he had already increased the patrols on the city portion of Great Harbor Road, but he had also contacted his counterparts at the sheriff's department to increase the patrol in the 25-mile-an-hour section. He managed to get these speed monitor sign, that flashes the speed fixed. It was, the city had one, but it wasn't working, so we got that fixed. And deployed that, and I do think it's made a difference in terms of the speeds that we're seeing on those roads. But of course, that's going to be an ongoing effort that we all have to, monitor, as well as Semiahmoo Parkway and Semiahmoo Drive. So, so that was one of our first efforts. The next thing we did is we had the fire chief, we invited the fire chief and two of the commissioners to come to the SRA Center, present to our committee, as well as any other members of the community that wanted to attend. Their reasoning behind the request for the levee lift that was going to appear on that on the ballot. We filmed that presentation. Darcy and Doug Woods, who were in the room, were in attendance, did a great job of note taking. We included those notes in our minutes, so we posted the video and the notes to the website so that everyone in the community can have access to that information should they wish to know more about that request. Another thing that we worked on was wildfire preparedness, which was the result of the first town hall in April, where several residents expressed concern about our wildfire risk here, in it being a heavily wooded community, and also evacuation. There are only so many ways in and out of Semiahmoo. So we worked with the Division of Emergency Management, which is a department within the sheriff's department, on wildfire disaster preparedness in general. But also with the Whatcom Conservation District, who the fire chief referred us to, and Robert Walker from the Conservation District came out, gave a presentation, which we taped, and took notes and made those available on our website. But we also distributed some materials which we have at the table for those who were not at the June town hall. This is from the Office of Emergency Preparedness, which is basically a booklet on how to prepare for a number of different types of disasters. There is information in here on the evacuation route responses that this department will give us if there is an emergency and we need to evacuate, how to communicate with us. And then this is a brochure on from the Conservation District on how to better protect your home, your individual homes from wildfire. So those were made available. And then the other thing that we did is we invited the police chief to come out and meet with us, and so that we would get to know him and also understand his philosophy of managing the police department. So a lot of what we were doing was trying to bring information to the community. And one of the things that the Safety and Security Committee has done in the past is to help, make people aware of something called CERT training. And that's Community Emergency Response Training, which is done by, the Division of Emergency Management at the Whatcom County Sheriff's Department. And, there was no CERT training available this year, because they were doing other parts of the community, the county rather, so Southern Valley, Maple Falls, Long Island. But the good news is that they're going to be doing training for Blaine and Birch Bay in February and March of next year, which is great. So, the person, the director of CERT training, at the Sheriff's Department sent, a PDF of a brochure that explains what CERT training is, what it involves. So it's basically an 8-week course. You meet once a week in the evening, for 8 consecutive weeks. There's some bookwork to be done as well, but it's hands-on training, classroom training of how do we respond in the event of emergency. And so these are available also at the sign-in table. So if you want to grab one on your way out, if you have an interest in attending these classes, there's an interest sheet that you can just put down your name and your contact information. It's not that you're signing up for anything, but it gives us a read on who's interested in getting more information from the county when they do get to the point where they're actually registered people. So that's available for you. And then the next step beyond, the water. Glass of water over here. So the next step beyond CERT training is something called Map Your Neighborhood. And that's where our goal is to have CERT trained individuals in each of our neighborhoods. Okay, you know, thank you very much. Thank you. And at least 2 per neighborhood, so that we can then go to the next level, which is something called Map Your Neighborhood. And the CERT trained individuals would be the facilitators of conversations, of meetings of neighbors in St. Andrews College, the area, you know, at each of the individual sub neighborhoods, where the community members get together and say, okay, in the event of a disaster, what are the things that we need to do? So there are 9 steps that we need to follow in the event of a disaster. And then talk about who has what resources. I mean, who has medical training, who has a chainsaw, who has a snowblower, you know, so that we know how to help each other, so that if something major happens and 911 can't get to us, we're our own first responders. And then there's something else called the Neighborhood Block Watch Program, which has also been done by the Safety and Security Committee in the past. That wasn't done this year because the individual who was our liaison for the police department retired. And so our new police chief has not yet assigned someone to fill that position. He thinks he will do so probably early next year. So once we have that individual, then we'll reach out to you through the communications channel to see if there are any people in the various neighborhoods that would like to initiate, if they haven't already done so, neighborhood watch. We have new people always coming in, you know, so those people can get involved and learn how, basically, it's, you know, how do you become a better, more observant witness if you see something that just looks off, because you know your neighborhood, you know your neighbors. And if there's something that just looks off, like how do you be observant so that you can give the best description of what's going on to the police department and let them respond. It's not that we're going to respond. So those are the programs that we'll be focusing on in 2025. So CERT training, Map Your Neighborhood, and Neighborhood Block Watch. So look for those, that information to come out through the communications committee. And if you're interested, please, you know, reach out and sign up. Okay. Right. Thank you.
Sad. No speech.
Hello, I'm Debbie Buchan. And I'm the chair of the governance committee. I think I'm the last committee report before the election committee and the greatly anticipated election results. So I'm gonna try to speak fast. So I want to give many thanks to the governance committee members. They were very well prepared for the meetings and they brought great ideas and great information to the meetings. So we have Jane Moore, Jay Westcott, Mark DeValley, Michael Finston, Ticky Vaughn, and Todd Wong, and Valerie Norris. Next, please. So the purpose of the government committee is to assist the board in providing clear, concise, and consistent governing documents that are compliant with Washington state law and that help ensure the legal administration of the SRA. Next, please. So some of the issues, well, a lot of the issues were pretty complex and multifaceted. So to try to make better decisions, we did things like a lot of preparation, whether it's research or putting decisions in a formula for the committee members to come prepared ahead of time by doing their own answers to a number of questions. So, and found this preparation can lead to better and more unanimous decisions. And by doing things like asking key questions, researching laws and governing documents, looking at alternative solutions and for each of them, looking at risks, costs, pros, cons, then consolidating the answers and input from all the group members into one document prior to the meeting. And this way, it helps avoid people making decisions based on one single criterion. And I'm going to give an example of asking key question a little bit later. And next, please. So the preparation and kind of format we used, I think, was quite helpful to the group because all of our decisions were unanimous, except for there was one decision where it was unanimous, except for one person abstained from the vote. And these topics, they're divided into two categories, and at the top, these are things that were recommended to the board. And so the first was taking a look at what happens with a tie vote, what procedures should be followed. And for this, we looked at Washington state law, the SRA bylaws, and Robert's Rules of Order, and all were consistent in the answer saying that on a tie vote, a motion requiring a majority vote for adoption is lost since the tie is not a majority. And Jay came up with the idea that in order to remind committees and the board when you're in the middle of something, this quote, what happens on a tie vote could go on meeting agendas and meeting minutes. So next recommendation for the board was for an election timeline rules proposal. This was mostly with regard to board and member resolutions. And Valerie Norris, she was on the election committee previously. And she came up with a document, and it by looking at the timelines, giving a bit more time for staff and for a legal review. And, yeah, so it made less of a crunch time prior to the election. And, so Valerie's proposal was very consistent with what the election committee, was working on as well, to improve the election process. And the next recommendation to the board with regards to Washington State Senate Bill 5796. And the committee voted to advise the board to start to consider this new HLA law and to budget for legal fees so that the lawyer could review our documents to make sure that we're compliant. So the next group at the bottom there, one was a decision to defer doing some work, and the top three, we were opposed to making a recommendation to the board to make a change. So the first was, should owners be SRA members? And all were opposed to making this recommendation. Next bullet, should they become committee members? Should non-owners be committee members? And all were opposed to making this recommendation. Third bullet, voting for directors. Should it be a yes, no, instead of the current yes only? All were opposed to changing voting for directors to be a yes or no. And this is where I'll give the example. So right now, when we all voted, you had 6 people and you chose up to 4 that to fill the 4 slots, open slots for a director. So if we, the key question was, what happens if you could change this to a yes, no for your voting? So what happens if everyone, well, for every one of the directors, they had more no votes than they had yes votes? Then we would have no directors elected. And now what do? Do you have the incumbent board just appoint all of the board members? So that's one example of a process of trying to really think deeply about making any changes to the CCNRs. So the last bullet down there, this one, the committee voted to defer doing a deep review of all the rules and regulations, pending a lawyer's review of all the rules and regulations for the law that's coming into effect under Senate Bill 5796. And next, please. Okay, so the state law change rewrites the Washington Uniform Common Interest Ownership Act almost entirely. And the act already applies to communities formed after July 1, 2018. And under the bill, that act is going to apply to almost all others, including ours. That was it.
Thank you. So I'm just gonna, the whole time I forgot, I was at the end and I was gonna go to the restroom. So I'm sure there's a lot of us that need to go to the restroom or washroom. So I'm going to be quick, but this is really an important part and the whole reason that we're here today. Among all the other things, first of all, I want to say thank you to all the board members, all the committee members. I mean, this takes all of us, all of our volunteer work. And so I just want to say thank you to everybody. Okay, so first of all, we can go ahead and click to the next one. Is that loud enough? I can't tell. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Okay, Okay, so, election committee. This will be my third year on the election committee. I'm gonna tell you right now that this was a committee that I was told that would be the easiest committee to be on, and I'm telling you that is not the case. So this will be my third year. I am the chairperson this year. We have Don Delaney and also Sandra Riders. And it has been an amazing, a great committee. The two people that came on this year, we all have a lot of different skill sets that we bring to the election committee. We all work together. So I was really pleased with the results of what we did this year. Next slide. I'll be quick here. So first of all, wow, okay, I did not put any of this stuff, but I guess this is all the stuff we did. Okay, so ratification of the board and of board of directors and the budget is what we're going to be talking about. The new thing that we did this year is we did an opposition statement for the member resolution. That gives you some information in regards to the member resolutions, just a different way of looking at them. We also changed the timeline. So we made it so that we would have time in case there was any things that kind of hit that last deadline, which has seemed to be even this year. We still have that issue, but we'll keep working on it. And we are always revising the stuff that we do on the election committee. So we love your feedback, and we definitely recommend your ideas and suggestions for next year. So please feel free to send that to us. So I think it's a drum roll now, because now we're going to get to the most important stuff. So click. Okay, so here we go. So the budget, as we all know, at least we should know that almost always it passes, even when we try to maybe not have it pass, it still passes. So this year, 3,363 eligible accessible votes. The votes cast on accessible votes were 1,679. You guys can read all that. It did approve and it was ratified. The thing that's nice, if we look at this year, and this is, I commend the board, I commend all the volunteers, especially, you know, the budget people on the finance committee. 13% are the only ones that rejected the budget this year. That's amazing. So that shows that we all have confidence in what's going on in our HOA. Click. Okay, so I guess we're just going to go ahead and say who we did. So we had 6 people, 6 board members or 6 candidates, and 4 got on this year. So first of all, I want to say congratulations. First of all, I want to say thank you to all of them and anybody that actually, all of you guys that are up here today, thank you. But these are the ones. So Kieran, do you want to stand up? Kieran is one of our new board members. April, you know April? April is our board member for next year. Debbie Packman, and David Booth. Thank you, David. Okay, click. I have the question. Okay, so the first, so this is the special assessment. Votes cast on this one were 1,704.5. Votes to approve 879, reject was 826. This was really, really close. But it did get approved 52%. It was a simple majority. And so therefore the special assessment for the stairs, we will be doing that. So thank you everybody again for voting. Almost half of the people voted this year. So I'm sure that the special assessment has something to do with it. But again, thank you. Next slide. Okay, so number 1, this is the member resolution. This is for rescinding amendment 43 with the undeveloped lots. As you can see the numbers, vote to approve is 42%. So this one did fail, and we need 66 2/3, 40% of that to pass. So that one was failed. That one failed. Next, sorry, I didn't say play. I apologize. Okay, the next one is the subcategory. Again, this one did fail. This slide will explain to you the process and how it failed. Click. The next one one, number 3, a resolution, regarding an amendment to the CPNRs regarding the resolution of due process. This one, did fail, and again, you see all the numbers. We have the slide, so I'm sure it's gonna be on maybe the, SRA website, so if you have any questions about these numbers, you can look on that. Next, okay, this is number 4. Again, qualifications for the election to the board of directors. That was one, and again, that one did fail. And click. This one is a resolution for the CPNR amendments by the association. This one, again, did fail. It is a higher threshold for these to pass. These are things that can go into our CPNRs. So that's why there is a higher amount of required to pass. And number 5, go please. Click. And the 5th one, a resolution regarding removal of member-only web page. This one, as you can see, 79% it did pass. Again, I was just so impressed with everybody. I'm hopeful. One of the things we did this year, we have the videos for the candidates. You'll see on Election Runner, we put all the information on there for you. We also sent you out a packet. And all this stuff is on the website too. So hopefully that gave you a lot of good information to make a decision when you vote this year. Okay, click. Hopefully I'm done. Questions and answers. Yay. But you're not gonna, are you gonna question me or are you gonna just question in general?
Thanks, Suzanne. So we're going to move into questions and answers. We've got a microphone up here that people can come up with, ask if you come to the front of the room, you give your name, your neighborhood, ask for a question. We will ask Lori if there are people online on Zoom who want to ask questions. Before we move directly into questions and answers, I want to thank Suzanne and the election committee for all the work they did to keep, to get all the material put together. The process starts in June. For those of you who aren't aware, it's not something that's thrown together in the last month of the meeting. There's a lot of work that starts in June and a lot of information that goes out and a lot of work that they do to have that go smoothly. Before we move to question and answers, I just want to acknowledge some of the people on the board who have finished their term at the end of this year. It's been my pleasure to work with everybody who is sitting up here today. But I want to especially thank people who are finishing up and thank them for everything they've done. So I want to start with Greg. Greg has been our steadfast treasurer, not a job that easily filled. It's hard to find somebody who has the willingness to take on the finances. And Greg sort of acknowledged that there were a bunch of CPAs on his committee, but he's a banker. And so his knowledge of investments and mortgages and working with banks has been invaluable to everybody. So lots of meetings, lots of responsibilities with the financial reporting, financial policies and procedures, internal controls, how to account for things. And so I just want to thank Greg, who worked really, really hard for the last 2 years on the board. And I want to thank Joel at the end. Joel came on the board to fill an opening that we had due to an illness on the board. It was sort of a late in the year position that needed to be filled, and Joel stepped up and filled it and has been, I think we all agree, has been a fabulous voice on the board, very practical, lots of experience, a lot of history. That Semiano has experience with working in the ASC in the past, and has brought a lot of new perspectives to the board. Excellent work on the communications committee, a lot of contributions, helping with ASC matters, and just a very wise voice that we've all appreciated on the board since he's been on. So I want to thank Joel as well. all the lucky people get to continue for another year. With that, with that, we'll do a draw. Maybe we can let Ron do it.
This is for $100 gift card for.
And the last four numbers are 7109.
Got it.
Winner, chicken dinner, there.
So. All right, so we'll move over to questions and answers. We can start with people who are in the room. Do we have anybody who would you like to come up here, please, and give us your name and your neighborhood?
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Stevenson. I'm a director of the Myron Condos HOA. And I wanted to alert the board on one issue. And I want to commend Aaron in connection with another issue, which is important to all of us. The first one is, some people may have heard, we've had some freezing fire suppression pipes in the hotel and in the condo buildings. And they're built according to federal regulations. The buildings conform to code when they were built. The performance of the fire service was horrifically bad. And we hear all this lovely stuff about the fire service. The first fire occurred at the start of the Christmas break on, I think it was a Friday night, public holiday weekend. Extremely freezing cold in the stairway. So it only significantly flooded the stairway and then flooded the garage. None of us in the building who happen to be here, and you know, many of our owners go south for the winter. In the case of the condos, about 75% goes. So of the people who were there, not one person had a clue as to how to turn off the fire service. And it was all behind locked doors with the fire service having a key, a master key. And to cut a long story, the fire service said it was too dangerous to come due to icy roads. That's an enormous public liability risk because the hotel also had fractures. And they didn't know how to turn the things off. It took about 75 minutes of a broken pipe, which I believe floods a 1.5 inch frozen pipe, floods out 89 gallons a minute. So we had thousands of gallons. And the building problems we are addressing in connection with that. And our building is retroactively fitting very extensive equipment now to minimize and prevent it in the future. We had a second incident in January this year in the super freeze. In the super freeze, and we need to be aware of this, the super freeze got down on my patio and a neighbor's patio to 0 and -4 F. The federal law requires, I believe it dates from 2000, and frankly, you can see the implications behind it. It created a new industry, and any building built with over including three floors, not just has to have full fire alarms, as we all know about, but they also have to have fire suppression systems in every floor of that building. As a result of that, the hotel had multiple fractures, we had fractures, and this particular fracture was particularly bad. Again, the fire service performance was woeful. Let me tell you about the first one and this is brief and I'll get away from it. The first one, they said they didn't have anybody, they didn't come because Blaine, the city of Blaine, which I confirmed, closed all roads in Blaine due to tree falls. They said it was too dangerous to come. And when they did turn up, well over an hour later, they turned up with 2 heavy fire trucks and 2 big crews. Wonderful to see all those guys, except that due to some extraordinary skill by one of our then residents, we were able to get into the room and turn it off ourselves. We didn't have to break down steel doors. That individual happened to be a Microsoft software guy, retired, and he knew how to get around certain codes and get in. And that was a huge stroke of luck. Within that context, about 30 minutes after the first arrival, the fire chief turned up. And very pleasant guy. And by the way, all the fire guys were very pleasant. The fire chief turned up in a red fire department SUV. And we said to him, well, the fire department doesn't have anything else that could get down to the hotel in an emergency. What about heart attacks with guests and anything else? Their excuse was, well, I've got 2 points, and I think the audience wants to, I'm getting attention. I will only conclude by saying the fire chief pleaded that they didn't have the budget to have an SUV available, yet he had one of these home. I found that pretty ordinary. I reported it to the mayor. The mayor is the member for Semiahmoo. And the hotel reported it, and there has been 0 action. And so I can imagine anybody in our community voted against this resolution. It's not for us to run the fire department, only to tell you that you cannot expect fire service in a reliable manner if the city of Blaine closes the roads. That's point number 1. Point number 2, I want to commend Aaron. Aaron and I talked on the phone extensively about 2 months ago, and one of the big items in our budget is contributions to the capital, long-range capital reserve plan. It's not really capital reserve, it's capital and maintenance items reserve. And it's much bigger than what it presents. The state has a law which requires a so-called accredited agent to file a return with the state as to our long-range plan, which is what Aaron's talking about. I happen to have a professional background in mathematical modeling and all that good stuff on computer techie early in my career. As a result of that, I actually was co-opted onto our board because we were concerned about items in the plan. The plan was prepared by the same professional consultant as this board has hired. I'm going to use a very harsh word. It's a scam. And for example, in our plan, they had $825,000 as the estimate to replace the windows. And the windows were German engineered triple lock steel windows. They get maintained every year, and there's absolutely no maintenance required. And they gave them a life of 23 years and said one building had to be replaced. This consultant did not talk to anybody on our board. Really want to finish this.
No, we have
And I wanted to come in there and say, I volunteered to go on this committee. We pay roughly $300 each per year for this assessment. And it's got a lot of phony, disputable items in it.
So, sorry to cut you off, but we have a lot of people here and we are, maybe we were remiss in not asking, people to acknowledge that we have some rules. We don't wanna cut people off, but we want everybody who has a question to be able to do that today and then let people get on with their days. So, is there anybody else in this room who, yes, can you just give your name and you get 2 minutes, I'm sorry.
Sharon,
Well, I think people online need it.
Sharon Howell, St. Andrews. I'd like to commend the board and all the committee members and all the volunteers for making our community so nice for all of us to live in. And it's not really a question, it's just something for you to consider. We heard all about wonderful Leroy, and it sounds like we would all like to have Leroy as our personal concierges or something. But my thought is, in the future, because Leroy is sort of what you're depending on for it now to be a lot of things done in-house, and the budget is depending on Leroy doing a lot of things in-house. What happens if Leroy decides to move on to different pastures? And have you thought about how we'll do in-house things without him?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think that what the point you made about Leroy applies to Aaron, it applies to Larry, it applies to all of our staff. So it's sort of a standard business challenge on how you plan for changes in staff when you've got a very small group of people that you're relying on. Do we have anybody else in the room? Rob?
I'm Rob Shivers, St. Andrews Cottages. We had heard that the SRA was working on the idea of doing property management for some of the smaller HOAs within SRA. Ours, for one, is interested in hearing developments in that area. And we'd like to know what's going on. And thank you.
So there has been, there has been a person in particular in the community that has talked about the concept of the SRA staff outsourcing some NHOA services. It's just a topic that's been raised. It's nothing that the board has prioritized working on right now. Our staff is pretty fully engaged with working on improving the way that we do things at SRA, and Aaron, getting Aaron up to speed in this last year, and the list is new, so it's not something that the board is actively working on to make that change. Do we have anyone else in the room? We're going to the room first, and then we'll move over to Zoom. Anybody else in the room? Steve?
I wasn't going to ask the question, but I am concerned about the fact that Steve Haynes, Drayton Hillside. Concerned about the fact that the board asked only for opposition statements about the resolutions this year. And there was no opportunity to present the case for the resolution. Now, the argument has been made that the resolution itself was supposed to present that case, but there were no instructions that that was the case. And in most circumstances, the resolution is intended to be very focused just on the specifics of the action that it represents. And then separately, you have a discussion about the pros and cons with an opportunity to ask questions and get answers and try to understand what you're voting on. That was not happening this year. The only opposition statements were requested, and there was no opportunity given to present a supporting statement for the resolution, even, not necessarily just from the authors, but from anyone. So I'm not surprised that everything got rejected. Because when you only ask for opposition statements, all you're going to get is opposition. I think the process needs to be looked at carefully and revised so that it resembles something like a democratic process rather than a, what do you call it, a Republican process.
Okay, so the introduction of opposition statements was introduced this year on the ballot. there was a call made to, for volunteers from the community, which we were, fortunate to get some volunteers. The board discussed this, extensively. There was a, the one view that was, put forward was that when we looked at the resolutions, there were extensive descriptions in the resolutions as to why the resolutions being put forward. So that is the basis for, the statement that the resolution itself was the supporting statement. I understand that for the people who wrote those statements, there's not necessarily agreement to that. We have also said that we are open along with the election committee to reviewing the process. It's a process that we're trying to improve and provide more information, and give everybody as many facts as they can. Because I think when you're on the board or when you're an active member of the community, a lot of this information is just in your head. And if you aren't very engaged in what's going on in the community, and you open up your ballot and there's these statements in there, then you don't necessarily have the background. So we're trying to make sure that for people who maybe are engaged once a year or infrequently in goings on at SRA, that you get more information to help you vote. Any more questions in the room? Ted?
Ted, that's from Stonehaven. Just want to talk about the fire department very quickly because it was brought up. If every resident within Semiahmoo had voted on the resolution or the bylaw increase they were going to make to the fire district, it would have passed. I went to a meeting at the fire hall in Odell, and I was the only person at that meeting. So the residents within our community, we can sway votes. We can pretty well get it passed if everybody in Semiahmoo. We're probably going to lose our fire station here in Semiahmoo because residents don't vote. So I would recommend that you and all your neighbors, next time it comes up, get out there and vote. I don't care if you vote on anything else, but vote for the fire district to get more money. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room before we move on to online? Lori? Who do we have online? I hope the microphone works.
Okay. Oh. See if we have too much feedback here. This question is from Kurt Hagman, St. Andrews Spring 2. And yeah. I don't know where to move to where this doesn't do feedback, so. There we go.
I can read it out if you've got it.
Thank you. I did not first.
Okay, Kurt Hagman and St. Andrews Green 2. Can the treasurer explain the $12,000 discrepancy in the combined fund cash balance at the end of 2023 between our financial statement posted on the website and the auditor's report? So I think this is a question that Kurt actually sent in. Kurt sent in a bunch of questions about the budget. So sorry, Kurt, I'll say you sent in a list of questions about the budget in the packet. My understanding was that Tom Lampe got back to you and answered all of those questions, and that they had been cleared up. If there's one lingering question, then we will contact you separately and get back to you on that. Is there anyone else online?
Second question is also from Kurt.
I almost finished typing this one out.
To the president, in light of the fact that the resort pays $85,000 in dues to the SRA.
Why isn't the AGM being held at the resort?
Why isn't the AGM being held at the resort? So the AGM has been held at the resort in the past. The resort is, every year we have gone and asked the resort. The resort is very expensive. want us to, pay for the use of their facilities, which of course is reasonable, it's a business. But it is very expensive and, they try to give us a break, if we can commit to our members, staying after the meetings and, partaking in the restaurants and spending some money down there. And we just haven't been able to pull that off. We had some town halls and at the end of, when we committed that our members, we expected that some people would stay. Our town halls ended around noon. We thought people would stay. I think one of our town halls, 2 people stayed. So, we've decided that from a budget point of view, we will support the Blaine Senior Center. We make a donation for the space. We don't just take it for free. We make a donation to the space. We feel like we're supporting the city and this great facility. Here, we hold our town halls at the resort as much as we can. I think everything that with the hotel is a little harder is picking a size of room. It's very difficult to predict how many people are going to show up. This is a very large space with the resort. You have to pick which size room you're going to book. So the board has unanimously been supportive of using this facility. And I'm supportive of the hotel being able to, charge a full rate to somebody else who can use that building and keep them in business as well. We don't have anybody else online. So, again, I want to welcome our 2 new board members. I want to thank everybody who serves on the board. This community is held together by volunteers. Everybody is busy and everybody has things that, they want to spend their days doing besides staying in meetings. And so I want to thank everybody up here who has served all year and thank everybody here who has attended the meeting in person. Have an excellent weekend.